the CDFI world. She created the
Right.
recognition program, the Next
Yep.
Awards. She funded countless high potential CDFIs.
Mm-hmm.
That it would have been enormously important experience, and she ended up not going. And that disappointed me. Now it could be that, and the reason I say that is, I would say for half of my time there, she told me she was 2 years away from leaving the foundation. Always. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And there she is. And as good as she is, as smart as she is, it just strikes me that it would be good for her to have different experiences.
Other than philanthropy.
Other than philanthropy and doing this in philanthropy.
Yeah, I see that. Anybody I skipped that you want to mention?
You know, I'll tell you what, the answer is no. I think that I did not prepare for this at all, and I did not think I would recall as much as I did through your prompting. So I think you've covered it kind of pretty well. So I don't think there are other...
Oh, we still have another section.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
What the hell's the other section?
Foundation-wide trends and events, and this is the wrap-up. So let me ask a couple questions, and then I'll give you the wrap-up, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be very articulate.
Well, I think these are more general. So you've been very articulate, and thank you. And you know, your comment about remembering more than you thought you ever would is something I hear almost every time. And I'm convinced what happens is that in the process of doing the interview, the synapses are reconnected and the memories just start coming back from things you may have not thought about for years. It's interesting. So this is the last section, and it's a lot of general sort of questions. And I'm going to start with this first comment a former board member said to me during one of our interviews. And that is, and I think it's pretty apt to ask you what you think about this, given your positions in government and given what your career has been focused on. This former board member once said to me that philanthropy exists to address capitalism's failures. I think he's talking about U.S. philanthropy. And it seems to me that this statement is especially apt when it comes to the topic of affordable housing. What do you think?
I think that, you know, I've spent a good bit of time talking about leveraging resources and affecting market failures and so on. So I kind of broadly agree. I think there are other institutions besides capitalism that are less than perfect in that philanthropy kind of focuses on whether it's international law, human rights, a whole lot of areas you can ultimately say are affected by or instigated by failures of the economic system or distribution of wealth or income and so on. So there's a good bit of truth to that, but it's a kind of narrower slice.
Interesting.
To me,
yeah.
It's institutional shortcomings, failures. The market failures are one part of that, an important part of that. It's a heady business. You know, there's free money. You know, there are others that raise the endowments, that manage the endowments. But one of the challenges, opportunities that Julie mentioned to me is, you've spent, your 40 years fighting for funding to support your research needs. How would you like to come here where I give you a pot of money and you decide the best way of spending it? That's really powerful.
Yeah.
And that really does define the two sides of the table that I've been on here. One is competing for those dollars and effectively competing, and the other is deciding how they should be spent. And that is both powerful and a scary, challenging opportunity.
Yeah.
Of not wanting to waste those dollars.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. What did you think of MacArthur's response to the housing and market crisis in 2007, 2008?
Yeah, I mentioned this a little yesterday. I had said to you that in my 40 years of teaching, housing has never been a national headline, and here we are with a housing crash-induced national economic crisis that brings us to the brink of ruin. And I don't think now the endowment shrinks like hell.
20% or more.
And so I've got to be careful here about, how I proceed. But I said yesterday that the foundation lens still was primarily not stemming the tide of foreclosures and trying to play an important role in the national policy response as much as it remained in how do we protect existing grantees and our rental housing focus. And you talked about Chicago foreclosure initiative and so on, but I don't know that the foundation was a major contributor to kind of the national solutions. Should we have cram down and bankruptcy cram down? Should we discharge? Should we have universal principal reduction on homeowners? How do we decide Main Street, Wall Street issues? I mean, everybody has gone through this retrospective, 10-year retrospective.
Yeah.
You had my old boss, Geithner and Bernanke and Paulson at a Brookings. You don't see the foundation playing that retrospective role. What have we learned? It's interesting. Based on my very personal view here, based on my work at MacArthur, I would never have been invited to join the Obama administration at Treasury. What enabled me to meet with 7 of the top Treasury officials in a 2-day period and be offered